the repository. I already went ahead and created a fork of the repository on my account, which I'm just going to clone real quick. Then I'd probably just ask Leah to guide me through the steps on the setup. So I'll just do a quick git clone. And move into the newly created repository.
All right. Well, obviously, there's a few prerequisites, including having deno installed and Rust, but we're not going to show how to do that. You can figure out how to install those two yourself. And there's also instructions in the README, or rather links for instructions. But for actual JS serverless stuff, there's a few things. First off, you do need to have Postgres installed as well. So I think let's first do that. And Postgres, you already have installed, correct?
Yes. So I already
okay.
have the psql command.
On Mac, it's available through Brew. On Linux, find your way. Yeah. So we need to create a database first. So you can do create DB registry. That will create a new database called registry.
So I just head into the command, right, and then do the command.
No, I think just create DB registry, like without PSQL.
Yeah.
Yep, that creates a database, and then yeah, that's the first step. Additionally, you want to run the migration, so you can go into the API directory.
Sure.
Which is our backend. So we have mainly two parts of the code base, the front end and API. API is completely written in Rust, and front end is completely written in TypeScript. And yeah, so in the API, we have all our Postgres set up, etc. So for that, we first also have to set up our .env file, because there's a bunch of environmental variables that need to be created.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can open up a .env file here.
Probably makes sense to just open in the editor, right?
Yep, exactly.
Yep. So we go to API env.
Correct, and create a new .env file. And
come on. Yep.
Right, and then first off, you need to set up the GitHub client ID and GitHub client secrets that you can find on GitHub. So you go into your account, create a new GitHub app. Everyone will see your token, so be sure to delete it after the presentation.
Project thread. Yeah.
No
projects.
No, not project. You go into account, your profile. Settings, I mean. Sorry, my bad. Settings at the settings at the bottom of the side panel.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry.
And then you scroll all the way to the bottom. And on the side, there's gonna be
right? No.
Nope. Further down, developer settings. And they create you a new GitHub app. I see you already have one for your previous setup, but let's just create a new one and name it whatever you want. And for that, for homepage URL, you can just what could you put? I think just jsr.io.
You can just put whatever you want there.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I'd probably go with JSR tests.
Correct.
Like
yeah,
that.
sure. For the callback URL, you want to put again JSR test /login/callback. that will make sure that the callback is set up correctly for GitHub.
Sorry, what was it? It was off
login / callback. Then request the request user authorization auth during installation.
Yes.
And we're good with that. We're good with that. There is one checkbox I think you passed up further above. That was webhook. You can disable that slightly further down. Yeah, webhook active. We don't need that. And then set account permission to for email addresses to read only. There should be account permissions and email address read only. And, and then you can just create it. And that basically set up the sure. Yeah, they have to be unique. That's probably gonna conflict with your existing one.
Let's see. Okay.
GSR2, I guess.
There you go.
All right. Wonderful. So now you need the client ID.
Yeah.
And you put that in the env file for the client ID, and then client secret. You generate a new client secret and copy that and delete it right after this meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's that. And then we need to set up the database URL to be correct. So usually the database URL would be, at least on macOS with the Postgres client, it's username and password would be, I think, Postgres : password. And colon, so double points, 2 points.
I'm sorry.
And yeah, that's pretty much the setup for the env file. Now, already talking about the database, we can open a terminal into the API directory and run, what was it? Cargo SQLX migrate run. So for this first one needs to install SQLX, which is done by cargo install SQLX-CLI, but I assume you already have it installed.
Yep.
So just running that will apply all the migrations to the registry. And given that this worked, means that also your env file is set up correctly, most likely. Perfect. Now we do also want to set up the jsr.test domain in your etc hosts. So open up your etc hosts.
Sure, I'm just going to head back and copy this.
Correct, yeah.
Real quick. So all right, save that.
All right, and well, that's all the main prerequisites set up to get JSR running done. So now let's run JSR. So you have to do deno task services, depending on the system you are. So there's macOS, macOS AMD, or Linux.
Yeah, so I'm still having an Intel chip, so I do have to run the AMD command.
Enough, and then if you open a separate window for deno task dev API, which runs the API backend server, and then another window for deno task dev frontend, which runs the frontend server. It's going to take a moment, and can already check in on the other tab. That's probably going to take a moment. So for now, we can walk through on what we're going to be doing as a contribution to GSR itself. So there is a relatively simple issue. I think we're going to go with that, which is on the GSR repo. If you can pull it up on the issues, it's labeled currently as a good first issue. And it's the oldest one. So that's good that we're going to get rid of that. And this basically just means we have to update the font and the font size for the OG images. That's relatively straightforward. So if you currently show the current OG images, they're relatively small. Like this is what it looks like rendered on Discord, which is not very readable. So yeah, we want to increase the font weight and font size as well. So this doesn't involve whatsoever touching the backend, only the front end. So yeah, I think let's do this. So given that your backend is still compiling, but we don't need the backend for this, we can actually show us something else. So can you open your terminal again?
Sure.
And you can probably stop the compilation. We don't need it for now. Maybe you need to compile the server if you want to do anything related to the backend, but given that this is only a front-end change, you can go over to the front-end panel and stop that, and then we can run deno task prod frontend, which runs the frontend towards the. Oh, you also have to stop
You
the
need to shut down the
services.
services.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry. I still
Because
have
it runs those. Yeah. Okay. Yep. And then you can open gsr.test. Don't get fooled by that link. Don't open the.
Yeah, I did. JSR.test. Whoops.
Yeah, that's fine. So this is a locally running front end connected to the live backend. So if you want to work on this issue, let's do that. And can you open in VS Code the corresponding file,
Sure
which in this case is in the front-end directory, in routes, packages, the og.ts file. So since we want to change the font weight, there's currently a predefined font, which is the DMM mono, which is defined down there. Given that DMM mono does not have a higher weight though, we're just going to change up the font completely that we already downloaded beforehand. So can you drop that into the static fonts folder?
Sure thing. I'm just going to move my final real quick. So we do have the front end. We do have static fonts.
Yeah, just drop it in the root for the fonts for now. So it's a single font file. We don't want italic.
The non-italic one.
Correct.
Yep.
Okay. Maybe copy the name. Yep. And then let's update the font in the OG image file there in the definition further down. I would not change the variable. That's just going to probably confuse a few things. We can clean that up later. And then, yeah, just update the URL and save the file. And let's look if the URL change applied. So you can open up the gsr.test OG image for some package.
Interesting.
So let's hopefully. Okay, that's That's interesting. That is completely blank. Okay, so
I'd
for now,
assume that potentially the variable is still stored incorrectly. So I might just restart the front end real quick to
sure,
see if
go
that's
ahead.
going to fix anything.
Else we can just do a simple font size change. That doesn't work. Nope, doesn't seem to be working. So something must be wrong with the font. Fair enough. So yeah, just revert that. But for the font size itself, there is a few calls. There's a few calls to render font, and the second parameter is the size. So the problematic. So can you open up the example again? The pre-rendered example.
Yeah.
So I guess we want to increase the size of the description mainly and publish time. Sure. I think those two are probably the biggest issues. So let's find those. That's the package name.
Scope text, package name text, version text. Potentially one of these.
Selected version. No, that's the version itself. Maybe search for description. You'll probably find it quite simple. Yep, description string. And yeah, there it was. Description string.
Description text, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and increase that maybe to 40.
Sure.
And let's see if that does anything. It takes a moment to like refresh the page again. Probably the front end was just reloading. Yeah. Okay, obviously
now it's a bit cut off.
Yeah, it's cut off because we are not adding correctly new lines. But so switch over to the front end, and there is a description max breaking point variable that's preset.
Yeah.
So find a definition and change that to probably around, given that we increase the size, 40, I think probably would be correct. And let's see if that works. Maybe it needs to be even less. That does not look like 40 characters to me, so 30. Okay, interesting.
No change.
Interesting that that doesn't work. Description max breaking point. Oh, there is another value set. So description breakpoint is
okay. So I'm just going to revert the changes we did on the breakpoint.
There's a description breakpoint.
Description break.
No, it's all. It's on line 208. Maybe go with that.
Thank you.
Yep. Values. There's a fallback value of 45. So that's probably the problem. Maybe reduce that to 25 for now. And that should fix it. That's. Oh, there is another render text. We missed one render text that does the rendering. That's set to width. Okay. Yeah, sorry, didn't prepare this completely beforehand. Wasn't expecting this to happen. But there is a render image with the mono font on line 223. That one is this. So this is rendering the description as well, from what I can see. But
I think what's happening here is that we like try to render the description word by word to see whether it still fits. And then when it starts not fitting in a single line anymore, we then add a line. It
Yeah,
does need to be rendered at the same font size as the final render, because otherwise, like,
I see.
the two renders don't agree on when breakpoints should be added.
correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Question is, why can we not? So why is it not breaking new lines when we change the maximum width?
I think the problem there was just the font was not synced up between the two renders.
So we can probably
Like this one was set to 30, and you just
good
changed it
point.
to 40.
Oh yeah, you're right.
And then you probably also need to reduce the
spacing
max
we did
breakpoint,
earlier.
because I think we bailed. Yeah, exactly.
So the description max breakpoint.
So the default
that one.
variable. Yeah.
Change that. Yeah.
I think this is like a fallback value for if it's smaller than this, we don't even try to add lines.
I see.
Yeah, there we go. Perfect.
There we go.
Thank you very much. And yeah, let's just quickly do the same for the publish time. I mean,
that one luckily doesn't have to wrap.
I mean, you never know. That might be actually if it's a full date, if it's very long. But yeah, I don't think that's going to be a concern.
Date text looks like a fitting variable for what we want to update.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe do 35. Let's increase it by another 10.
I'd give it the same value as the published text, probably.
Sure. Let's go with that. Yeah, probably doesn't want to be bigger than the actual title.
Here we go.
Yep, perfect. Yeah, the font changing, making it bolder didn't work, but try to zoom out to about 33%. That's more or less what it would render, for example, on Discord, if it's much more readable. The description is definitely more readable if you can compare it to the other tab that you have open already.
Sure.
Yeah, that's much, much better. Probably the version number can be increased and the latest bill as well, but I think this is pretty good for now.
All right.
So
and I'm just going to get rid of the fonts that we added.
Yep. And then you can open up PR for this. Again, we did not touch the backend, and we did not show how to set up deno doc, which is an additional step one might want to do for contribution to the documentation generation, but we'll be releasing some documentation on how to do that yourself, and probably by the end of the day, there will be full-fledged documentation on how to set up the documentation generation aspect of JSR for local development. And yeah, that's pretty much overall it on setting up JSR and yeah, making a very, very simple PR. Anything you want to add, Luca?
Nope. Just waiting for the PR. Yeah, no, this was great. Thank you. So the instructions that you gave earlier on setting up the GitHub thing, just to clarify, you only need to do that if you want to develop the backend. If you just want to develop on the front end using the deno task prod front end, then you don't have to set any of that up. You can just clone the repository and run deno task prod front end.
You do still want to set up the etc host though.
Yes, you do still want to set up the etc host. Cool.